Vlogging on YouTube is something that is still popular as ever with content creators. However, a lot of people are under the impression that vlogging is easy. There are some really hard truths about vlogging that sadly a lot of people are not aware of, and although it is definitely worthwhile in the end if you want to start a YouTube channel and start vlogging, it's also good to be aware of some of the hardships you might face when you start to create a vlogging channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about some of those hard truths about vlogging and some of the things that I've personally experienced over the years of having a vlogging channel, and we'll go through some of the mistakes and points that I have learned, and hopefully if you're looking at starting vlogging very soon, this video will help you out. But for those of you who are new here, hi, my name is Kaylee and I'm a freelance photographer based near Sydney, Australia. But I'm also a content creator, and I started this channel a few years ago to talk about all things business, social media, content creation and freelancing. And as I mentioned in today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the hard truths of vlogging, and I think in particular what a lot of YouTubers don't mention when it comes to creating a vlogging channel. So to give a little bit of a backstory on my vlogging experience, I have been running a channel with my partner Dan, and we started it back in 2017, and it's a travel vlogging YouTube channel. Now this has been a really difficult channel to kind of master or get on top of. I feel that there's been so many other things that have been prioritized in previous years, and that has contributed to the channel not being the main focus for us, especially since I've had other businesses that I've needed to attend to. It's definitely been a bit of a passion project for us though, and we really enjoy travel vlogging. It's something that now we've been doing since, like I said, 2017. So that's essentially 7 years now that we've been vlogging for. And although the channel hasn't blown up and it hasn't gotten really big and it's kind of just been ticking away, there's a lot of things that I have learned in that time that we've both learned. And I think it's really important to share some of that information with any of you who are aspiring vloggers or who may be really struggling to grow your own channel. So you might already have a vlogging channel and you may already know how difficult it can be to really grow an audience on a vlogging channel. It's a really difficult thing to do, and personally I have started 3 different YouTube channels, and I still maintain that Wonderwalkers, our travel channel, has been the hardest to grow for several reasons. Now I do think that again the consistency has definitely played a part in that not growing more, but I do think there are things specifically about the nature of a vlogging channel that has been harder to grow rather than some of the other channels that I've had and I have grown fairly successfully. And I'm going to be delving into the first point now, which is you really need to be showing up regularly. And that I feel is a bit of a bigger point of difference between having a vlogging channel, say, and something like the channel that I currently have now, where I'm doing more educational videos, or even my photography channel where I was kind of doing the same thing in that sense. I feel like there's a lot more content on here that reaches a really wide audience. And I'm not saying that vlogging definitely doesn't reach a wide audience, because it can, but I do think one of those things that really stands out for me is that I always felt to gain any traction on that travel channel, we had to be posting really regularly. It's really difficult to say this as well, because I really am a firm believer in that you don't need to be posting like 3 videos a week or anything to grow your YouTube channel. And I still maintain that with the travel channel that we have and other vlogging channels. But I do think for vlogging, people really like to get to know you. People really like to stick around if they're going to watch your vlogs. They want regular vlogs. And if you're only posting like once every fortnight or once a month, it's really hard to gain that traction of people kind of coming to your channel and wanting to stay. And I've always found that I've had to show up a lot more on Wonderwalkers more regularly than my other channels. And I honestly hate that, because it's really hard to just even take breaks with those kinds of channels where you feel like you need to be a lot more present and you need to be a lot more on top of things to make sure that content is constantly getting pumped out. So I think it's a bit of a shame that sometimes it can feel that way, but I do think with vlogging channels, you really need to be showing up a lot more and quite regularly to get that audience that wants to stick around. The next point that I want to delve into is that you really need to keep people engaged as well. So this really leads on from the last point, which is getting people to really stick around by posting fairly consistently. And I really do think that keeping people engaged with vlogging channels is so imperative, because you don't really have sometimes a lot else to rest on if it's just your vlogs that you're getting people to watch. You don't really have sometimes the option of a really large variety of content that you can post, unless that's something that you've been doing from the beginning. You've been posting different types of videos, but I do find with vlogging channels, you really need to keep people engaged and keep them watching. And the thing is with vlogging channels is that quite often viewers will stay for your personality. So if you can get them to stick around and watch your vlogs, quite often you'll get followers for life, and they'll be really engaged, and it's really great to see their faces popping up all the time in the comments section, and you just know that they're going to stick around. But that's also the hard part as well, is getting them to stick around because of your personality. personality. So I think one thing that's really difficult that I've struggled with, and even my partner Dan, that we've both struggled with over the years, is that for me, I'm quite introverted. I would say that I'm a lot less so these days, but definitely when we started the channel and even before then, I was very introverted. I've definitely come out of my shell a lot more now, and I'm a lot more social in that aspect. But even for Dan, I know that he's a pretty big introvert. So trying to get your personality on screen sometimes is really difficult, and trying to make vlogging feel natural, or as natural as it possibly can, is a bit of a process. And it can be really frustrating to feel like you're not showing enough of your personality on screen, you're not showing enough of it in your videos, and it's really difficult. It's a lot more difficult than what people realize that it is to actually get your personality on screen. So that's something that I would say was a really big struggle for me, because obviously my other educational videos and my other channels, I have a fairly good outline of the video. I kind of know which direction I'm going in with it. I'm not constantly having to speak off the top of my head as much than with vlogging. I would say things are a lot more organized with those other videos, in the sense that I feel really comfortable and confident doing them. Whereas sometimes with vlogs, you kind of get stuck and you're like, oh my God, what do I even say? Does this sound weird? Like, you don't really have a script in front of you. So you're feeling like there's just so many things sometimes going on that you're just wanting to get your personality on screen, but you're also thinking about, have I gotten all the information I needed to talk about? Like, I don't have a script, I don't have anything to follow, I don't even have much of a guide unless you're planning that kind of thing. So I do feel like that is one major issue for a lot of people, is trying to get their personality on screen and getting people to stay for it, because it's not as easy as it sounds. And then the third point that I want to mention is it's really important to have an element of good storytelling in your vlogs. And this is really so your vlogs stand out above the rest on YouTube, because as we all know, there's lots of vloggers on YouTube. So it's really important that you can somehow rise above and stand out from the rest. It's not all about the gear either. I think this is something that a lot of people get very obsessed with in the beginning. And do I have the correct audio? Do I have an expensive camera? Do I have all of these things for vlogging? And it's really not necessary to have all the best pieces of gear, but what is necessary is to really work on that storytelling part of things. So I find that that is also a really difficult thing to do. If it doesn't come naturally to you, or you maybe wouldn't consider yourself a full-on creative, or even when it comes to video editing, you're really new to it and you're not really sure how to make things work, this can actually be a hindrance too when you're not very familiar with video editing. And for me as a photographer, I think a lot of people just assume because I'm a photographer that I also do video, and they've assumed that the entire time I've always done photography over the last like decade and a half. But I haven't always been that in tune with video, and it wasn't until I started YouTube that I actually got to learn about video editing a lot more. And it was really a struggle to get on board with the storytelling stuff, because I was used to it with photography and stills, but doing it with video is a whole different matter. And I think there's a lot of techniques that you kind of have to learn over the years, and this is just definitely through practice and experimentation. But there's so many little tricks in the book that you can use for storytelling that unfortunately most people just don't realize straight off the bat when they start creating vlogs. So it's definitely something that does come with time, but it's also something that's not really easy to master straight away. And again, leading on from that point, it's really easy for vlogs to become boring. And this always used to be my worst nightmare with our travel vlogging channel, is that the vlogs would just be so boring. To be fair, I do feel like sometimes we're our own hardest critic when it comes to this, and we might think our vlogs are boring, but then there's a lot of viewers out there who will really enjoy them, and it can be sometimes the most boring vlog ever, and people will still enjoy them. But I do think, again, it comes back to keeping people's attention and keeping people watching, and sometimes that can be really difficult to do if you've got like a 30-minute vlog and you don't maybe have a lot happening, or you're not really sure where to go with it, what direction to go in with it, or if you're not talking a lot and there's not much going on in the vlog in general. Sometimes it's hard to work out all of this stuff and to really just keep people watching in general. I wouldn't be too concerned about the vlogs being boring necessarily, because again, this is stuff that comes with time and you learn how to make things more engaging. But it is something to be aware of, and it is something to think about when you are filming your vlogs and kind of keeping people engaged in that way. And then the last point that I want to cover is that I feel that it can take longer for your channel to grow with vlogging. I do think on average, from what I've seen from other creators as well on YouTube who are vloggers, I do think vlogging channels can quite often take a longer time to really build up, more so than your average channels. And I say this for a few reasons. sometimes I do think that a lot of vlogs, it really depends on what kind of vlogs you're doing, to be honest, but for a lot of vlogs, you are kind of missing that SEO element. And I've talked about SEO, which is search engine optimization, a lot on my channel before. And honestly, I would say that this is not something necessarily to focus on or to only focus on with YouTube videos, but I will say that with vlogs, sometimes it can be a missing factor. So you're not really getting a lot of views from search sometimes, because sometimes with vlogs, and especially just everyday vlogging, it's hard to even know what to tag it with or how to integrate that SEO. It can be done from time to time, it absolutely can, but I would say on the whole, it's a little bit harder to do that sometimes, especially if it's not really an educational vlog or anything like that, or a searchable kind of vlog that people would be looking for. And I do find with a lot of vlogs on YouTube, they tend to have quite clickbaity titles. Even if the vlogs are maybe not as interesting as the title suggests, I do find it's a way to get people clicking on the videos and actually following along in some way or another, because I do think that it's, again, quite tricky to sometimes get engaging titles with vlogs and to really help your channel grow in that way and get people clicking. Again, you really have to think outside the box with vlogs, and I know that even with our channel, we've really had to think hard about how some of the content goes out. Sometimes I've really tried to focus on SEO and try and get that kind of through, and I think it can work with travel vlogs to an extent, but sometimes you just kind of need to write that engaging title, and sometimes I feel like it does edge a little bit towards clickbait too. Now again, I'm not talking about every vlog channel out there. I think there's obviously some vlog channels that will blow up very quickly, and those lucky people will just have their vlogs doing well from the beginning or from a really early point in their YouTube career. But for a lot of vlog channels, I do feel like it takes time and perseverance. And once you get those regular followers and that starts to build, I think it's something that is 100% worthwhile to do in creating a vlogging channel. I wouldn't say to listen to anyone who says that vloggers are dead, because I personally think they're as popular as ever, if not more popular these days. I was actually speaking to my husband about this the other day, and we sort of tend to feel that these days people are posting like 30-minute videos and people are watching them. I feel like even with all the short form content that's going on these days in the short form platforms, there is still absolutely that space for vlogging and on YouTube where people are going to be watching those longer form videos. And for a lot of people, it's something to just put on while they're at home doing chores, maybe they're at work and they just need something in their ear to kind of like keep them entertained. You know, like there's so many reasons why people watch vlogs, and I don't think they'll be going away anytime soon. But one thing that I will say is that it's sometimes a little bit harder to get those kinds of channels growing, and I think some of these points that I've talked about today are just something to be aware of. Well, thank you so much for watching this video today, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, make sure you do, because I'll be posting a lot more videos in future. Also hit the notification bell to see more, because YouTube does not recommend my videos to all of my subscribers, as is the standard on YouTube. Let me know down in the comments section below what you think about vlogging, and if you've had any struggles with your vlogging channel, or if you're looking at getting into vlogging, if you've got any concerns or questions, definitely feel free to let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But thank you so much as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.